Don't get your tinsel in a tangle. Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston can help make your holiday easier with cash for clothes. Sell us your gently used trendy styles to earn cash on the spot. We need your denim, dressy clothes, sweaters, boots, and more. Plato's Closet buys and sells sustainable styles. Earn cash to make holiday spending less stressful. Don't get your tinsel in a tangle this year. Simply get cash for your cool clothes at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Again, on this weekend of giving thanks, a little I thank you from Sam and Dave. We're not Sam and Dave, but we are Brian and Dave. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. Hour number 2 begins, and we did thankfuls throughout hour number 1, Dave Cook, but we got to extend it to hour number 2 because when it comes to things, and in this case, people I'm incredibly thankful for, our next guest might top the list.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's not just the name brand, right? It's the guy.
It's the way he's treated us.
It's Paul. It's not just PA, the radio guy. It's Paul Allen, our friend.
Absolutely. So Paul Allen, the wonderful human being who also happens to be the Vikes Vox and the host of 9 to Noon, who I am a very loyal listener to, and you'll probably get proof of that in our questions here. But let's bring him right in. Very thankful for you. Good morning, Paul Allen.
Yeah, and very thankful for you guys and for that touching moment here on this Saturday. My daughter Nicole, my beloved Coley, is in from Boulder, Colorado, where she's a senior in college. She's here for Thanksgiving and the weekend, and she's sitting right next to me. And she heard all those wonderful, thankful things you said about Dad, and it was so perfectly and beautifully timed. So thank you, boys.
No problem hyping that up. Got to get Dad in the spotlight, and rightfully so. But I'm going to give you a Coley question then, because let's be honest, out in Boulder, Colorado has been a topic. Coach Prime has got them front of mind for a lot of people. Have you asked her what's campus life like with the football team doing as well as they are?
What's campus life like with the football team that good with Dion?
It's active and lively. Go Buffs.
Nice.
Go Buffs.
Nice. Gotta love that from the beloved
you know what?
Coley.
When I was there for we've had I don't want to say a rather vicious road schedule because I don't want to shortchange those who really do, vicious and hard and like outdoor jobs when it's 0 degrees and stuff like that. However, been a lot of flying the last month and a half. One of them included a family trip to Boulder for family weekend for the Buffaloes against Cincinnati, and they won the game. I got a chance to see Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter in person, which was a real treat. But then I started to think, with Shedeur, and I think his brother Shiloh, I think he's also in his last year in Boulder, where, holy cow. It's like when those guys are gone and the potential of Dion leaving, which I would imagine he's probably going to do. The 4 years that she was out there with Dion there, it might have gone from like a 0 to a 100 and a 100 to a 0.
Yeah, that might absolutely be viewed as the glory era without question. Before we get to Vikings talk, I want to just talk some football in general because there was plenty on Thursday. Thanksgiving is about family, but football for many is in the backdrop. I'm going to phrase it very, very bluntly and just let you take the floor from there. Bears-Lions, the end of that game. What in the bleep happened?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that go into unpacking that, and I don't want to bore your audience with that. A head coach got fired out of it. So there have just been some polarizing things with the Chicago Bears the last few weeks where, like 3 weeks ago, their prized rookie quarterback got sacked 9 times at Soldier Field against New England, a bad team. So that right there, red flags all over the place. We're beating them pretty soundly and then start jacking around with the game at the end, and then they come back and have a chance to win, but they don't. And then the decision-making at the end of the Thanksgiving game, now the head coach is fired. So, from a NFC North standpoint, it's going to be low-hanging fruit that Lions' well-respected offensive coordinator Ben Johnson becomes the next head coach for the Chicago Bears because he has built-in nice receivers and nice quarterback and everything. So that, I'd be with Eberflus out and Johnson probably becoming a head coach next year. That spot definitely does make sense, and he'll help that quarterback a lot.
That would be a sneaky good move if the Bears can make it. Of course, you got to pry Ben Johnson away from Detroit. He shied away from those opportunities before. Right. But speaking of sneaky good, I know in terms of Vegas, the Vikings would qualify with the over-under on wins being at 6.5, and you're already at 9. But do the Cardinals qualify as sneaky good as well? Because is this a good team? I would say no. But do they have the ability to be a good team? Absolutely, yes. What do you expect tomorrow?
No, it's a good team. It's not a very good team, and it's taken the leap from, just slightly below mediocre to good in areas. Now, I'm pretty far down the road on them for tomorrow's call on your station at noon, and they got some things to them that I just didn't realize. Like they've gone the last month without their second best defensive player, a safety named Jalen Thompson, who with another guy named Budda Baker, who's a 3-time All-Pro. Those guys make life tough because they play safety, linebacker. They're all over. So I think Jalen's going to come back tomorrow. But they have a first-round pick, an edge guy, and a defensive end from Missouri named Darius Robinson, who I'd forgotten about. And he hasn't played all year. He hurt a calf in one of the preseason games, been out all year. And I think he's going to return tomorrow. So they defensively, they've been quite stingy, and they run it better than I thought. They got this tight end, Trey McBride. I mean, he's top 3 to top 5 in the NFL. I'm not a huge fantasy football guy, so I'd heard of him and seen his numbers, but it's just crazy. He's like second in the NFL for tight end receptions at 61 and like third for yards at 685, but he doesn't have any touchdowns. So I'm trying to figure out what they're doing there. But Kyler never has played better. His offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, was former wide receivers and assistant quarterbacks coach here. Then he went to Cleveland with Stefanski. Very, very smart guy. And what this team is doing is it's finally emulating the personality of its coach, Jonathan Gannon, former assistant DB's coach for the Vikings during the Minneapolis Miracle year. And Jonathan's a tough guy, and he's very aggressive on defense. And they're taking on the personality of their coach, and subsequently they're keeping everything close.
Speaking of coaches, PA, ours is pretty good. And I wonder, I mean, you were there, in the process, and you had a chance to see the move from Zim to KOC. My question for you is, how much better has KOC been than they hoped? Because I can't believe they thought he was going to do this, right? How much more has he exceeded expectations than even the Vikings thought?
Well, it's a fair question, but really one that I can't answer when the expectations, when you have players like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Christian Darrisaw and some others is to get far in the playoffs. They in his first year, they won all those games and they played quite well offensively in that Giants playoff game, but then they lose. Last year, nobody's going to the playoffs. Well, I shouldn't say nobody because Cleveland went through 4 or 5 quarterbacks last year and found a way to get to the playoffs, but it's very difficult. And I think the collaboration, and I think the 1 and the 1A here with Kevin and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and really you can make it a triangle with Brian Flores. It's just really, really hitting. It's when you're able to get players like Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, and Andrew Van Ginkel, and then you put them into a unique system, and where they fits perfectly. I mean, it's not kind of a fit like Preston Smith or Rashawn Gary with the Packers defense and, switching to a 4-3 and a 3-4 and hand in the grass and stuff. I mean, it seems to be working better now for Rashawn, but it was such a unique situation. Preston begged his way out and got traded. Right. And Gary hasn't taken off until late. So when you're able to get 3 guys like that for the price of 1, Danielle Hunter, that's a home run. When you're able to manipulate things and get Cam Robinson when you need him, and he's upper echelon but not high end, that only helps. So the way Kwesi's put it together for O'Connell and Flores it's just been a work of art.
Absolutely, it has. Lots of talk of KOC, lots of talk of B-Flow. I want to talk about another member of the staff, and I want your take on his importance. And I think it goes back to last week for me. And I heard a little bit of this on your drive-bys, which are a great segment, by the way. But JJ was limited in terms of stats, but so impactful because of the day that Addison had, because of the day that Hawkinson had, etc. I feel like Keenan McCardell drives that point home. How key has he been?
Yeah, I'm surprised Keenan is not an offensive coordinator. And he went for that job, I think, last offseason, maybe 2 off seasons ago with New England, and he didn't get it. Keenan works with these guys in a way where, we're talking a decade and a half of extremely accomplished wide receiver play. But a lot of these kids probably don't remember it unless it's pointed out to them. But Keenan can call up a clip from the Super Bowl after the 0-2 season where he caught 2 passes in the game and they both were touchdowns. So that's very important for Justin and very important for players. Because Justin, getting to know him as well on a professional level as I have, is Justin wants the team to win all of its games and get to the Super Bowl. Then secondly, Justin wants to have the most yards and touchdowns of any receiver in the NFL. Is very important to him. And then thirdly, just getting to the Hall of Fame matters a lot to Justin. So the way those are kind of stacking up now, when I sat down next to Justin after the Bears win, he first and foremost, he's very kind for letting me do that. Because it's not interview time and here comes the announcer and I'm not threatening to him and he knows he can trust me, but I got the microphone and he wasn't in a great mood. And when I started the drive-by, I ended basically sitting next to him and in kind of surrogate-like fashion being like, I love you, man, but you have to understand that Addison doesn't get the 162, Hawkinson doesn't get the 109 in the second half and overtime, and Jones doesn't do what he does if you're not on the team. And he gets that, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily always super easy to absorb when you're not hanging those 175s and 2, those 210 and 2. And then finally here, and I speculated on this a little bit on my radio show this week, and I have no proof of it. And it's just kind of how society works today. I just hope Justin, when he gets back to the locker room after a win or a loss, that, he's doing I know he's doing what everybody else does, going right to their phones. And I just hope he's not scrolling through his text messages and he's getting people from around the league or people in his life being, dog, 2-26, dog, you haven't scored a touchdown in a month. Dog, I saw you were open on this play. Why didn't he throw it? I just really hope he's not dealing with things like that because stupid little jabs and little flicks like that can be distractions that can upset somebody and cause somebody's mood to shift. It's just, I know Justin's happy the team's won 4 in a row. I know he loves this team and I know he's very comfortable with Darnold and loves McCarthy. It's just, he wants to blow up and he wants to have one of those games. And he recognizes defenses legitimately 95% of the game are trying to suck the quarterback into stupid throws like he did at Jacksonville. And to add to your O'Connell question, another thing that's exceeded expectations with him, in my estimation, is let's not forget we're 2 weeks removed from those 3 awful interceptions at Jacksonville, all intended for Justin. Pulled it back the next week. It got better. Pulled it back even more the most recent game, and it was at its best. So it's going the right way. And when you have Addison, Hawkinson, and Jones put down on film what they put down that last game, if you're really going to double and triple Justin the entire game, so be it, because the Vikings just showed you what they can do when you do that.
No doubt about that. Since we're giving love to other facets of the staff, I'll admit I don't know Matt Daniels at all, but you talk about mood shifting, and the Vikings kicking game has done that to fans over the years. How grateful should we be for this year to this point between the kid and Reichert and then the admirable job that Parker Romo's done?
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Parker, and this is going to be his last game, in my opinion. If the 4-game bit, holds through with Reichert, and I believe it will. So, I think when we play Kirko Chains next week, I think Reichert will be the kicker. But with Romo, all 6 kicks he made last Sunday, you needed every single one. You needed the extra points, and you needed the field goals. And finally with him is you're on a 4-game deal that's going to earn you a job with another team. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. He's shown with his kickoffs and with his kicking for points that he can do it. but of his 4 games, his first 3 were outdoors. I mean, that ain't easy.
Right.
When you got US Bank Stadium, which you'll have tomorrow, and there's no wind, and the surface is smooth and hard. At Jacksonville, we had 25-mile-per-hour winds. Tennessee was normal, and the Bears' turf is always wet and deep and wonky, and it got a little windy late in the game there. So good on Parker Romo for pushing through those situations of kicking outdoors 3 games in a row, and he came through.
No doubt about that. So he will vacate because Will Reichard will come back from IR. Meanwhile, Ivan Pace goes on IR. We tend to think that Brian Flores will just put the next piece in place and we'll be fine. What does the Pace injury do to this defense in your mind?
Well, you'll, unless something changes, I think you'll see a 57 running around tomorrow. And it's not old school Audie call.
It's not Mike Merriweather?
Or Mike Merriweather or maybe Dwayne Rudd. It's a player named Jamin Davis, and he's in his 4th year from Kentucky. He played for Washington this year and actually played against Arizona. So they got him off the street, and he's an inside linebacker type. Next layer there with that is I would imagine they've seen enough of Camus, Grugier-Hill inside against a team that does run a lot, and they use their tight ends a lot in the running game. You'll see 84, 87, and 81 out there for Arizona a lot of the game, and they run behind it a lot. So I don't think they're comfortable or completely comfortable with Grugier-Hill inside. I don't think they're completely comfortable having Dallas Turner be that guy full time. Now to work along with Cashy, they'll probably use this Jamin Davis a little more tomorrow than people think.
Talking with PA Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings, as he's just throwing dimes. Speaking of dimes, Dave Cook, we got to ask about Danny Dimes, don't we?
Well, yeah, and we can start with Davis being a surprise first-round pick way back in the day. How about Daniel Jones being a surprise number 6 overall pick in his draft, and now we have a number 6 overall pick in our practice squad. PA, what's your take on Danny Dimes being a Viking?
I met him yesterday, and after practice, and he did a little side interview bit. And I've called his games, and I've seen him play. He's bigger in person than I thought. He just a very broad chest, and he's taller. He's like 6'5". He's just very thick upstairs, very strong upstairs. I've thought about ways to put this with Jones and with Darnold, and I just can't get around it. The human version of it's kind of like taking in an abused animal as a human. Okay. I mean, that's about the only way to put it. And abuse doesn't have to mean constantly beating something right to its death. Abuse can be yelling. Abuse can be screaming. Abuse can be lack of privilege. Sticking somebody in a room for 3 days, whatever. But I envision a lot of the same things that I and we have seen or heard with Darnold from when he got here in March to now. Same thing with Daniel Jones. It's my belief Daniel is completely accepting of being on a practice squad. If somebody tries to come get him on the practice squad per the new rules post-COVID, those players have the ability to say, no, I reject your claim. And Daniel wants to be here. And I think he wants to be here a lot. And I think getting all this weight taken off of him, he can work behind the scenes, work privately with some very high-end scholars of the game, and kind of rebuild himself into next season. And the fact you don't have to pay the 11-8 or be tied into this ridiculous $23 million injury thing, those are all gone, and the Giants are on the hook for that. So like Cam Robinson, this is an investment that Kwesi is making in a depressed stock. Jones may not be 6 overall in the draft worthy, but he also is not worthy of being kicked off a team. And he does have a skill set that belongs in the NFL. So then finally on this, it's just abundantly clear, that McCarthy is the quarterback that they're going to want to use next year. But coming off this knee deal that required a second surgery or something like that recently, now you have somebody stored away who knows how to play the game, is smart, which is what O'Connell requires. Cousins, incredibly smart. Darnold, very smart. McCarthy, smart. Jones, very smart. So I like it. I think it's really a no-lose situation for insurance into next year.
Speaking of a no-lose situation that happens to us every time we get you, we're going to bump you out with a song that we didn't know till today, but it's called Thank God for the Radio. I'm going to edit it and say thank God for the radio announcer. Have some fun back at home tomorrow. Let's get another win.
Enjoy the family, PA.
And I appreciate you guys, and may God bless you guys and your families, and everybody who takes time to listen to us on Saturdays. Kirko Chains next week. Looking forward to that one, but got to get a high five for the Minnesota Vikings. Beat those Cards tomorrow, win 5 consecutive games.
We love it, PA. We love you. Let's talk again very soon.
Thanks, PA.
Bye.
That's our guy, Paul Allen, taking some time out of his Thanksgiving weekend. Thank God for the radio. We continue with Joe Mooney of UWS Men's Soccer here on the Northland Sports Page. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Northland Sports Page. It's Brian Prudhomme. It's Dave Cook. It's time for that smooth transition from football to football, Dave Cook.
Yeah, no, and we've talked to start the whole day, Brian. We talked about, focusing on, one of the things we're good at is focusing on the local. And there are times when our local teams do something special that maybe you don't know about, and now is the time to find out one of those.
Absolutely. So we're going to look back at a very special season for the UWS men's soccer team. Speaking of local teams doing something special, though, there's an opportunity for area skaters on the youth side later today.
Absolutely, because the East Greyhounds are taking on Wayzata.
They are.
And after the game, kids are going to have the opportunity to skate with the Hounds today.
They are. About 5 o'clock, there's also a canned food drive in conjunction with that. So take the kids out for a good skate with the Hounds today. Steve Patosha and company always put on a good event there. But speaking of putting on a good event, I don't know if you can call your entire season an event, but when you do what the UWS men's soccer team did, I think you safely can.
100%. And, this is the opportunity again to not to focus on national, have expectations about, professional athletes, but celebrate the guys who are doing it for the love of the game.
Absolutely, and I teased this appearance about a half dozen times during my hockey broadcast last night. His name is Joe Mooney, but I love to call him Joe Cool. In fact, I did on the phone right before we go to him now because he's just one of the coolest guys I've had the opportunity to be around. Let's say good morning. Coach, how you doing?
I'm great, Brian. Thanks for that lead-in, man. I don't know if I can live up to all the expectations you just put up there.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll give you about 10, 15 minutes to try. But I got to tell you, on the pitch itself, your team exceeded expectations, at least to the fans. To you, how did this go? Was this a group that you knew right away, hey, we got a chance to do something special?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always some coach speak there that you think every team is poised to go for a run. But I'll say we had the boys out for dinner in our preseason out to our house. And when they all left, I turned to my wife, Rachel, and I said, I think this is the group that's going to go further than we've ever gone before. I just have this feeling about this group. And so I guess it was never really expectations, but definitely a dream. And these guys made the dream come true.
We talk about during the hockey season time and time again about building a team from the back end out. You need a good goalkeeper. You need a good D-core. Does that translate to soccer too, or is it more about, hey, I need scoring punch and I have it?
Well, I mean, we definitely had some scoring punch. We scored 116 goals this season. I guess now after the Sweet 16 game, 118 goals, which is by far a record for us and led the nation. But I do think that a big part of why we scored so many goals has a lot, Brian, I think you nailed it. I think it has a lot to do with our defensive side. When guys feel more confident with the line behind them, it allows them to make different runs. It allows them to be a bit more aggressive and stay higher. And so I think that our scoring prowess actually had a lot to do with just how confident we were in our defensive side.
Of course, today we're looking back at your season. It ended not too long ago. Have you had time to let it all sink in and realize what your team did? Because in the midst of a run, you're enjoying it, but you're focusing on what's ahead. Now that you've had a little bit of time to kind of embrace, for lack of a better phrase, what was accomplished, has it sunk into this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take a minute for it to really sink in. To be honest, I haven't really seen the boys. So I took a couple of days off this last week. It's hunting season in Wisconsin, so got a chance to go back to my hometown down to Spooner and see my family. And so I really haven't seen the players much. I'll get a chance to do so this coming week. And I think that's where it'll really start to sink in a lot more when we get a chance to kind of reminisce together and look back on the season together, because I think everyone on the team would agree there was no individual effort out there. It was 100% a team commitment. And so I think to really appreciate the accomplishment, it has to be done as a team.
Speaking of a team effort, I'm going to even expand on that and say this might have been a campus-wide effort, because I want to point something out that you did as well. And it's a topic that when it's used properly, it's awesome. And when it's not, it just isn't. And that's social media. The UWS social media team is unbelievable in hyping up your team. How much fun did you have checking out what they were doing as this run continued? Because I got a major kick out of it.
These guys, they're unreal. And obviously, I've got to know those guys. I mean, even since way back when Holden was a student with us. They're all soccer fans. Obviously, they're involved with Duluth FC as well. And just, they do a great job promoting all the sports at UWS. You can tell that there's a little bit of a passion there specific to soccer. And you're right. I think fun is the only way you can describe what they do. But we talk about it in our department. We really do feel like we have the best marketing media team in the entire country at the Division III level.
No doubt about it. They flexed on people a little bit, and so did your team. Again, the incredible national run by the UWS men's soccer team. Talking to Joe Cool, the head coach, Joe Mooney. And talk to me a little bit about what goes into coaching soccer, because it's one of those sports that it's a little less obvious. You see basketball teams calling timeouts. You see NFL teams drawing up plays. What is the heart and soul of an in-game opportunity that you get to really make an impact?
I think there's a lot that has to be done before the game. We have to feel prepared. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is the more I empower my players, the better we're going to be. There's not a lot I can do in game to really impact the game. It all comes from the players. And so we look for a lot of opportunities, whether it be in team meeting or obviously in training. I mean, even on the bus ride down and team dinners, all that, really looking at ways to empower our players and really create that leadership from within. And then I think it's really a chemistry thing. And this group really bought into that. I think just about as hard, if not harder than any other group I've had. They really, as cliche as it might be to say, like, I really feel like they played for each other. And they're, like I said, there weren't a lot of individual efforts out there. I mean, so far as to say, like a guy like Jake Kidd, a local kid, came up through Superior High School. He was, as a junior this year, the second leading goal scorer in the nation with 24 goals. And, I never once felt like, well, we got to leave Jake in the game because he's going to get on a hat trick, or, I'm going to hear it tomorrow, he's going to be upset. There is none of that within the team, even as far up as our leading goal scorer. And I think that when guys really buy into that real team chemistry and camaraderie, and again, they're just playing for each other, that's when groups get really special. And that's what this group had.
I do think that's really well said. And Dave, I think he segued into something that we love to talk about, because we love when teams are good, local teams are good, but we also love when some of the fruits of their labor come from local kids. He mentioned Kidd. He's got the Altman boys. Callum Greenan will be on this team. I love what UWS is doing. Go ahead.
That's exactly what I was going to ask, Brian. I want Coach, so many, we don't talk a lot about soccer up here as a general. And so we don't know a lot of the local kids. And so when you hear a local kid is doing great, I'd like to know a little bit more. Could you tell us one about your team and some of the players, and could you highlight some of the local kids for us?
Let me first just say, I know you guys don't talk a lot about soccer, but I do feel like between Schuster and myself, guys, like I feel like we're pulling you in more and more, and I love to hear it. So thank you guys. I was going to say
it's you, it's Shu, it's Pukowski, it's all the people affiliated with soccer that just continue to rope us in. Barry Chasty, all of them. Dave Riles, of course. Yep.
All the greats there. You just mentioned them, and so thank you guys for giving it a chance. I mean, to kind of get onto your point, David, I think we have a really cool collection of guys here where, I mean, we've got guys literally from all over the world, whether it be, Felipe up here from Brazil, or a handful of guys from the UK, guys from Scandinavia, wherever it might be. But I don't feel like we've outsourced our talent either. I feel like we bring guys in and there's such a cool cultural impact that guys bring when they come from different parts of the world, not just soccer wise, but I just think a different way of looking at things is great for our team culture. But we also feel like we're a program that can give opportunity to local guys and regional guys. And so while we have guys from all over the world, I think in our last game, I think we started 5 guys from the Midwest alongside, again, some international flavor as well. And I think it's in large credit. You mentioned some of the guys you just did who have really poured into the youth game, whether it be Barry, Robbo, Greg Kane. I mean, just all these guys from this area that have poured into the youth game and made sure that there are, good players that are coming up through the ranks, in the Twin Ports here. And so we've been really fortunate to be able to tap into that. And obviously I think there is just a bit of a sweeter momentum at times when guys from the local area that grew up right down the street, they bring all their family and their high school coaches. I think Coach Otto Birdie was at, just about every one of our home games this year to watch some of his former guys play. I just think that adds something to the mix.
I think it does as well, and you segued beautifully into what I wanted to talk about, because when you make a run like your team did, as much as you want to look back with joy, and you also want to think, what does this do for my future? Well, the future of the game is often related to what are we doing locally at the high school ranks or below. I feel like soccer in this area, it's the beautiful game. I feel like it's in a beautiful place. Would you agree?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. I really think that, again, between what Alex and Shusi have done over on the Duluth FC side, and then again, some of our local colleges, and then the high school and club level, I really think the Twin Ports has become sort of a soccer destination. And I think what's been really smart for a lot of soccer folks is they've kind of tied into some of the local hockey ties as well. The two games are so similar. If you look at just what is the point of the game, I always say, whichever one you're talking about, whether it's, hockey or soccer, the point of the game is to put the round thing in the square thing, right? And so there's a lot of crossover between the two sports. And I think that Duluth and Superior have always been kind of known as sort of a hockey destination and hockey culture. And I think soccer has really tied itself well to that sport, but found a way to make it its own as well.
I think that's very well said, especially Dave Cook, because I did a Northern Stars game Tuesday. Half the roster was the Duluth East girls soccer team. So the similarities, they're recognized by some of these athletes.
Well, I tell you, Coach, I did the All-Star soccer game a few weeks ago, and the boys' game is one of the most entertaining soccer games I've ever seen. There were a lot of goals, but the crazy thing for me is the goaltenders were unbelievably good. Like, it's really cool when you see scores and goaltending that takes you off your seat. And that's the one thing I wish more people would see is the skill level at our youth, like you were saying.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's only going to get better. And I mentioned, I think, some of the godfathers of soccer in the area and the legacy that they've already kind of created. And now it's I think you see it in some of the youth. I mean, you guys mentioned Barry Chasty. Well, his oldest son, Keegan, is coaching now, over at Duluth East as an assistant coach there. And so you're seeing guys that have done it at a really high level. And I think that when younger players see that and they see the pathway, and then you've got guys, like Keegan, or I can go down the list here, but guys that are then willing to turn over and give back to the soccer community, that's when things get really good.
You mentioned Keegan, and I learned a lot from him this year being around Duluth East. He's such a wonderful soccer mind. Obviously, so are you, Joe Mooney. I want to go ahead to Duluth FC because you brought it up a couple times. Now, you serve as an analyst for them. What's it like to see the game from that proverbial 10,000-foot view and give your take, give your opinion, but try not to be too much of a coach and maybe be too hard on somebody or use terminology that you shouldn't? Sometimes analyst from coach is a difficult transition.
Yeah, and big credit to the big sound Matt Johnson for bringing me on and kind of teaching me the ropes there. Very grateful to him for that. He's given me a lot of his time. When I first started to do it, it was just kind of this sounds like a fun thing to do. I can be connected to the local club and get to kind of rub shoulders with some of the players that they're bringing in, and that was all fine and dandy. I think what I realized very quickly is I can actually use this to make me a better coach. I do think one of the things that has been something I've really tried to work on a lot is I'm just trying to be more concise in the way that I verbalize direction and analysis and all that. And you guys know on the radio when you're live, it's hard. It's hard not to kind of babble and fumble your way through sentences and that sort of thing. And I certainly do still do a lot of that. But I do think it's forced me to really kind of hone in the way that I communicate when you're having to do it live and you don't know how many people might be listening in.
Right.
It makes you kind of internalize it a little bit more. And I think that's maybe a better coach in the way that I communicate to my players.
I think that's beautifully said, especially your initial take on it. Hey, this might be fun. Let's see what it leads to. I think that's what Dave Cook and I did, and it's led to 7 years of a radio show. You just never know, my friend.
Absolutely. And two of the greats on air right now. I'm very fortunate to be talking to you guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the time today.
Thanks,
I call
Coach.
you Joe Cool, and I'm never going to stop. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. Doesn't matter if a mic is on or not. Let's talk again soon, my friend. Happy Thanksgiving belated to you and your family.
Hey, same to you guys, and thanks again for letting me be a part of this.
Absolutely. That's Joe Mooney of UWS Men's Soccer. Let's talk again soon, my friend.
You bet. Take care, guys.
You as well. All right, Coach, we appreciate it. Time to kind of talk to the coach on the field when it comes to the purple. Vencie Glenn is next. Stick around. We'll be right back. That is the safety dance. That's a song I'm thankful for because it means that Vencie Glenn is right around the corner. That's courtesy of Drawing Lines from Arola Architecture Studio. They are one of our great sponsors. Dave Cook, you have the others.
The old MTV is thankful for this song as well. This was the first What Is This video that I ever remember watching.
Well, so are Men Without Hats because the royalties just keep coming.
Amen. All right, let's start with the Blackwoods Group, including their locations on London Road, in Two Harbors, in Proctor, and Tavern on the Hill. Arola Architecture Studio, Hoops Brewing, ABS Auto Solutions, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, Assisted Living Locators. You can reach him at www.assistedlivinglocators.org/Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer, and Mount Royal Bottle Shop.
So again, so very thankful for all of those businesses here on Small Business Saturday. Make sure you go out, spend some money, make it worth their while. But Dave Cook, speaking of making it worth our while, this guy maybe does it the best, Vencie Glenn.
How about that? We get a chance to talk to Vencie again, and yes, as thankful as can be.
Every time we close the show, we do it the right way when it's 2-5. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys?
Always good to talk to you. We missed you last week. The one downfall of on-location shows, depending upon the location, is the inability to connect with you. I'm very thankful it's back today.
Me too, pal. Me too.
I'm hoping that a win is back once again for the Vikings because they've been on a roll in terms of result. If you worry about style points, which might be fan ball, to quote you, they haven't been on a roll, but they finally get to come home. And this team, I think, is good enough to make a little run. Do you agree?
I do agree. But this is when it gets a little tougher. Everybody's gunning for you. Everybody's trying to position themselves for the playoff. And you have to get better. Detroit Lions are rolling. You have to find a way over these next few weeks to get better as a football team to be ready for the playoffs. It's not just about, winning games and stuff, but you have to prepare yourself for that championship run in the month of December.
Vince, there's a fan ball statement about teams needing to lose once before the playoffs just so they get that sharpness back in their game. Do you buy that? Do you buy that a team needs to lose just to kind of get refocused?
I don't buy that you need to lose, but losing doesn't hurt a good football team. Sometimes it makes you aware of the things that you need to work on so you can get better for that end push. I thought when the Detroit Lions lost a couple weeks ago, I thought that was kind of good for them. Mm-hmm. Humble them out a little bit and get back to business. And as you've seen, they've gotten back to business.
Oh, yeah.
They really have. Speaking of business, Vencie, I very rarely repeat questions from one guest to another, but we had PA on to start this hour, and I asked him about the ending of the Lions game on Thursday that cost Matt Eberflus, rightfully so, his job. And PA, as a broadcaster for a team, kind of towed the company line, towed the league line, and didn't really want to let loose. I'm going to let you, if you can keep it under FCC regulations, but I'm going to phrase it like this. The end of that game, what in the world happened?
Yep.
What can a coach possibly be thinking?
I'm going to tell you like my boy Bubba Dub says, social media guy, trash, just straight trash. I've seen Tom Brady run 4 plays in 29 seconds.
Right.
And not to get a playoff and not to be – it's okay for players to kind of panic, but as a coach, you know what you should anticipate everything that's happening. You should have your guys in a mindset and your quarterback in a mindset say, this is what's going to happen. Let's call 2 plays. That's leadership. That's just a togetherness thing with the team. If you look at the Chicago Bears, all the games that they lost, it's been like debacles at the end.
Yes.
So it's a culture over there. You know what I'm saying? It's not just one play. It's a culture of different people at different crucial times not making the plays they need to make. And so when you start seeing that, you know it's an inside thing. It's not necessarily having to do with football.
It's crazy to me that it happened for 1, but that it happened with a timeout in their pocket for 2. Just inexcusable stuff, and that's why positions were changed as a result. Speaking of changing positions, the Vikings at least get into a position to be back in Minneapolis. You've always said it's better to play at home, and we know that. But after this many weeks on the road and winning all of them, as a player, do you expect your home stadium to basically be as electric as possible in a game like tomorrow?
Absolutely. And they're excited. they're looking, we're looking at playoffs. You know, you keep winning, you're looking at playoff potential and a chance to win a Super Bowl. So you're definitely excited to come back home, you know, and not worry about getting on the road and losing your whole weekend. So it's a big game, but these are the kind of games that scare you against teams that are not that prolific, but they have prolific players. And so you have to really pay attention to what you're doing today, because the more you let teams that are not as good as you hang around in the month of December, you're giving other playoff teams energy and things to work on for you that you're not good at. So you have to really be dialed in December.
100%. You're flirting with disaster if you let a bad team hang around. Speaking of letting them hang around, what about Kyler Murray in terms of mobility? Brian Flores can make life for quarterbacks very difficult, but mobile ones are kind of a different animal altogether. As a safety who played the game a long time, how does a mobile quarterback change your game plan?
They scare me. Because you're covering these great receivers downfield, but at the same time, this guy can flat run like a running back. And that's open field. So it just puts a lot more pressure on you to get off on third down. The longer you let series go, the tireder you get, and a guy that has feet like that can really damage and hurt you in a bad way. So they need to get off the field on third down. They need to keep the edges tight and upfield so this guy just don't get outside and run around, because he has prolific receivers and they got a good running game.
They do. As we're closing the show with Vencie Glenn, as we often do, part of the Drawing Line segment, courtesy of Arola Architecture Studio, I hand it over to my partner in crime, Dave Cook.
Yeah, Vencie, on that subject of Kyler and his ability to run, does that change a team like Flores' team that's really an aggressive man-to-man defense and change them into a bigger zone defense so they can keep their eyes on the quarterback?
You know, you just have to be disciplined in your lanes, on your rush lanes and your techniques and the things you do. You just have to be disciplined, and I don't think you really have to change a whole lot, but just be more aware and conscious that this guy can get outside even when he thinks you got an angle on him. He can make that angle disappear.
So, Vencie, we've talked about difficulty stopping offenses because you were a safety who played the game. I want to switch it, and I want to get your take on watching another safety. We know the Vikings have a good one in Harrison Smith. Budda Baker has been unbelievable for a long time, and he's going to oppose the Vikings. What's your take on a guy like him who is a safety but tends to line up anywhere he wants?
Well, he's like Harrison Smith. They're almost like they're great ball players. Very smart, intuitive, understands the game, understands situational awareness. So Budda's a good guy, but he's only one guy on the defense. You know what I'm saying? So you can't harp on that. He's a destruction kind of guy, but at the same time, if you do what you're supposed to do, one guy can't beat you.
Vencie, the Vikings took a chance on a broken player here this week, and they brought in Daniel Jones and the mess that he had in Chicago.
In New York.
In New York. Sorry. Well, hey, it could have been Chicago there.
He probably made a mess against the Bears at some point.
Exactly. Sorry. In New York. And I'm wondering, two parts. One, as a player, did you a team that you had that you were on, did you ever bring in a guy that just looked like he lost his confidence? And two, we were talking to PA earlier, and Paul said that Jones wants to be here. specifically because of how it's set up to like rehab the guy, right? Have you ever been around a situation where you guys had to bring in somebody that was talented but a little broken?
I have, but I don't want to mention any names. And it's just about being with the right organization that cares about you. And he's in a better place. Daniel Jones not a bad quarterback. The environment, the toxicity of playing in New York. I played there. It's not easy. I don't think the front office was all bent in on him winning this year because they got rid of Saquon Barkley. And when you do that, something's wrong with you anyway. So there's a lot of, I think, inner office things going on in New York Giants and the Jets that has nothing to do with football and just make players not feel comfortable on the football field. And I'm glad Daniel Jones can get somewhere where he can be happy and play the game I know he loves to play.
Vencie, I'm going to close with kind of a silly question, but we only got about 60 seconds left.
Best kind.
With Thanksgiving, it's always been a tradition, and you're a guy that likes to uphold the tradition of football, but it's been a tradition that Detroit plays and Dallas plays. Now, I know they added the third game to get other teams in the mix, and they even had a Black Friday game yesterday. Detroit's good again. Dallas is not. But are we to the point where we need to abandon those two teams automatically hosting and just put different teams in the mix, or don't mess with tradition because we do it in enough areas?
Man, change that up, bro. I can't watch them teams.
I love that answer.
Teams, you just force it on people. You know what I'm saying? And people don't want to see bad football on Thanksgiving. They want to see some exciting games. And Dallas has been just a show for the last decade or more. You know what I'm saying? And it just gets old. You know, it's not everybody doesn't like Dallas like that. So yes, they need to switch it up. I know these schedules are done way in advance and things, but they got to find a way once the season starts to be able to switch some of this stuff up. It's just not good if you're not a good football team.
Just when I thought I couldn't love you more, here we are. That's a good way to close this week. Let's talk again next week. Go Vikes, and we'll have a good time next Saturday as well. We love you.
Appreciate you, Vencie.
Real quick, 30 seconds. I want to give a shout-out to Donahue Racing, my buddy's race team in Minneapolis.
Okay.
They won the IMCA and Hudson Speedway track champions. Brady, Matt, Pops, who his name is Pat. I love you guys, and congratulations. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Got to be thankful for their success. We're thankful for you helping us have success as a radio show. We'll do it again in a week.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Vencie.
Absolutely. That's 2-5. Vencie Glenn. Very thankful for this show. Not always thankful that it's over, but time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies today. Got to get to a movie, Brian.
Yes, you do. So thank you to Dave Hoops. Thank you very much to Joe Mooney. Thank you to PA. Thank you to Vencie Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Well, thank you.
I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful
for you. Thank you for thanking me.
Here we go.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving weekend, everybody. Small Business Saturday. Go spend some money with the great small businesses we have. We'll see you next week.